1966, my last time in jail. At Bathurst, about 20 of us heard that we were going to Kirkconnell Prison Farm. And I thought, oh shit, it might be like that 1930s movie. I was a fugitive from a chain gang. But my nervousness vanished immediately because everybody was real happy to be going to Kirkconnell. A bloke said, "It's great. Your cell's like a motel room and it's one out. And there's grouse tucker in a nice dining room. You can buy stuff, coffee and Milo and chocolate with the money you earn." I said, "How much do we get?" He said, 50 cents a day. Save for you until you get out. But at Kirkconnell, you can spend it if you want. It ain't much, but it's better than nothing. And I calculated the dough I'd leave jail with if I didn't succumb to consumerism was $75 in nowadays dough. Someone joked, "Hey, Beatnik, you'll be rich with your 5 months' pay. That's why used vagrants come to jail for, ain't it? To save up dough." And that night, we had to stay in X Division at Bathurst. I think it was called X Division. It was outside the walls of Bathurst back then, and it was real nice, a nice sort of room. But our cells were left open until 9 p.m. And there was a TV in the rec room that you could watch until about 11 p.m. Until about 9 p.m. And then, usually I went to bed and slept real good to make time pass quicker until I got out. But around 7 o'clock, a pudgy bloke about 30 years old came to my door and he said, "You ready for me to fuck you?" So I said, "Oh, fuck," I thought to myself, "here we go again." So I said, "You try and fuck me, you'll lose your fucking teeth." So I made like Rocky Marciano, and my mind was screaming out, "What are you doing? He'll kill you." But I bounced around saying, "Come on, have a go." And I expected Pudgy's fist to explode on my head. And I'd been practicing blocking techniques from a book I had, and I thought maybe I could block him and then piss off downstairs. But he went to punch me, and I got ready to block, and his punch was about to come, and he pulled it up. He didn't punch me. And he said, "We was just checking to see if you got any heart. It's okay, mate. But I'd have killed you, mate. See this fist? It's the biggest fist you've ever seen, ain't it?" I said, "Oh, yeah, it's the biggest fist I've ever seen. I wouldn't want to be hit with that." And then he pissed off. And next morning, I came out and I thought people treated me a lot better. But it may have been my imagination at having at least acted brave. From then on, I felt at ease. When we got to Kirkconnell, each morning we'd hop in the back of an old Bedford truck and, wrapped in warm clothes against the wind and the snow, bump along rutted tracks to the government pine forest, except there wasn't any snow because it was summer. Yeah, I forgot that. But in winter, there was a lot of snow at Kirkconnell, I think, I was told. And in a log hut in the middle of the pine forest, we planted pine trees, and on tea breaks we ate unlimited toasted cheese on hot rolls that were given to us. And sitting next to a cast iron stove fire, we rolled tobacco and boasted of crimes committed and women loved. And we sipped hot sweet tea and luxuriated in the warmth. And if it rained, we'd yell, "Send her down, Huey." Every place I went when it rained and you were working and you didn't want to work, people would yell out, "Send her down, Huey." Now, I don't know who Huey was. That must have been the name of God back then for sending the rain down. And in this hut, I'd lose myself in a novel until at 4 o'clock a truck took us sliding through the Kirkconnell mud to our motel. And just when I'd learnt to enjoy Kirkconnell, it was time to leave. So, dressed freshly in me freshly laundered blue jeans and me black sport coat, I was driven to Bathurst to await the 7 a.m. train to Sydney. The railway waiting room at Bathurst had a fireplace and a wood panels, and it was just like the posh men's room in Sydney's State Theatre. By the fire, in a fatherly armchair, I counted my $70 nowadays release money and, feeling rich, crossed the road to a milk bar to enjoy my first milkshake in 5 months. Once again, the sunshine and life was perfect. Okay, that's the last of my stories. I never went back to jail. We never had a boneyard in those days. I don't know if there was a boneyard, but nobody knew what you're in for unless you told them, or unless you talked to a screw and found out what someone was in for. And jail back then was always called boob, B-O-O-B. That's what we'd say. We're in the boob. And have a jerry, we'd often say have a jerry. That means have a look. And the worst insult was to be a dog, of course, or a give up. But the third worst thing to be called was a gig, G-I-G-G. A gig was someone who gawked at things instead of acting cool. And pedophilia, I don't think we knew any pedophiles because pedophilia was not known much about before 1990s. What else can I tell you before I finish? Oh, we didn't split matches into 8. Some guys said they could split matches into 8, wooden matches, but the most I ever saw was splitting them into 4. And there was no radio box in Bathurst or Yatala, only in the Bay and Adelaide jail. What else? There was no internet in the 60s, so no one knew much about you except the screws. What else? No, that's about all. All right, that's the end of my story. Oh, hang on. The cells in Bathurst and Long Bay were hot as hell in summer, 50 degrees, and freezing cold in winter. And I used to pretend I was a Zen Buddhist. So when I was in my cell by myself, that cell became a Buddhist monastery. So that's how I got through most of my jail, by pretending I was in a Zen monastery. And no one had tattoos. Oh, well, there's a lot of people had tattoos, but Crims would always tell you, don't get a tattoo. They're for mugs, because coppers can always identify you from your tattoos. Oh, yeah, one more thing. There was hammocks to sleep in Yatala. There weren't, in my wing, I don't know about the main jail, but I was in reception at Yatala for most of the time, and they had hammocks, and in the morning you had to fold the hammock up real neatly and arrange it in a certain way, or else you'd get some sort of punishment. So I left my hammock the way it was when I first got there, because I sure as hell didn't know how to fold it properly. So I slept on a blanket on the floor most of the time. But because I pretended I was in a Zen monastery, I didn't care. So most of the time in my cell, I was happy as a pig in shit. It was only out in the yard that I had to worry about stuff. And every night we'd get half a loaf of white bread, and in all jails. And there was no toothpaste. We used to clean our teeth with salt. And I cleaned my teeth with Bon Ami once before I was getting out, with Bon Ami to make them real white, just before I got out. Oh, that's all. That's the end of my story. Don't think there's nothing else. Okay, over and out.